I never thought a single sentence could change my life forever. But the day my stepmom looked me in the eye and said, "In this house, there are only daughters," my world flipped upside down. My name is Mark, I'm 19, and until recently, I thought I had life figured out in the simple, clumsy way most teenage boys do. I wasn't the most popular kid, nor the most athletic, but I had a decent group of friends, a part-time job, and a quiet routine that made sense to me. But routines don't last forever. When Dad remarried 2 years ago, I tried my best to accept it. Losing Mom when I was younger left a hollow space in our home, and Dad seemed brighter with someone new around. That someone was Angela, my stepmom. She was strict, graceful, and carried an air of quiet control, the kind of woman who could silence a room just by entering it. At first, I thought she'd treat me like a stepson, maybe with kindness, maybe with distance. What I didn't expect was rules. Angela believed in rules the way some people believe in religion. No muddy shoes in the hallway. Dinner together every night at exactly 7. Chores rotated weekly on a whiteboard in the kitchen. And then came the rule that undid me. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I had just come back from class, tossed my bag down, and wandered into the living room. Angela was sitting there, flipping through one of her glossy magazines. She didn't look up when she spoke. "Mark," she said evenly, "I've been thinking. This house doesn't have space for confusion. There will be no boys under this roof. Only daughters." I laughed at first, assuming it was one of her cryptic, sharp-edged jokes. But when her eyes lifted from the page, I froze. There was no humor in them. "What do you mean?" I asked carefully. Angela closed the magazine, placed it neatly on the coffee table, and folded her hands in her lap. "I mean exactly what I said. If you want to live here, you'll live as my daughter. No arguments. No exceptions." My mouth went dry. My first instinct was to storm out, slam the door, text Dad, complain about her being unreasonable. But something in her calmness unnerved me. She wasn't making a suggestion. She was making a declaration. I stammered, "But I'm your stepson. I can't just—" Angela cut me off, her voice sharp as glass. "You can. And you will. Or you'll find somewhere else to stay." The weight of her words settled over me. I didn't have money saved. I didn't have relatives nearby willing to take me in. Dad traveled for work and trusted Angela to keep the household running, which meant I was cornered. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling, replaying her words. Only daughters in this house. I didn't know yet how far she intended to take it. I didn't know the small steps would turn into bigger ones, or that every mirror in the house would soon reflect someone I barely recognized. But deep down, I felt the first tremor of what was coming. And it scared me. The next morning felt different. I dragged myself out of bed, expecting the usual clatter of pans and smell of coffee from the kitchen. Instead, I found Angela waiting at the dining table, a delicate porcelain teacup balanced between her fingers. She didn't greet me with her usual clipped good morning. She simply studied me, as if I were a project she'd already begun. "You didn't sleep," she said, not asking but stating it like a fact. I rubbed my eyes. "Who could, after what you said?" Angela placed her cup down, the sound ringing too loudly in the quiet room. "Good. You should be unsettled. It means you're listening." I frowned. "Angela, this is insane. I can't just change who I am because you don't want a boy in the house." Her lips curved, not quite a smile, more like a teacher humoring a slow student. "You misunderstand. I don't dislike boys. I simply refuse to raise one. A daughter fits this house. A daughter learns discipline, grace, and order. A daughter doesn't stomp through life aimlessly. That is what I expect." I opened my mouth to argue, but she stood and walked toward me. Angela wasn't tall, but she carried herself like she was. Every step made me shrink a little. She stopped just inches away, her perfume filling the air between us, sharp and floral. "You can stay here," she continued softly, "with a roof, food, and my guidance. But only as a daughter. If you refuse, pack your things." I stared at her, heart pounding. I wanted to shout no. I wanted to demand she stop playing this bizarre power game. But the truth twisted inside me like a knot. I had nowhere else to go. Angela tilted her head, eyes narrowing. I'll give you time to think. By dinner tonight, I expect an answer. And remember, silence counts as agreement. She turned on her heel and left the room, her footsteps echoing up the stairs. I collapsed into a chair, burying my face in my hands. My stepmom wasn't bluffing. She never bluffed. And if I didn't play along, I'd be out on the street. All day, my mind spun. What did she even mean, live as a daughter? Clothes? Hair? The way I spoke. I didn't want to imagine it, but the thoughts came anyway. Each one made my stomach twist tighter. When Dad called that afternoon from another city, cheerful and oblivious, I almost told him everything. But Angela's voice lingered in my head. No arguments. No exceptions. By the time the clock struck 7 and the smell of roast chicken filled the air, I knew my world was about to change. Dinner felt like a test. Angela had set the table with her usual precision. Polished silverware, crisp napkins, candles flickering even though it wasn't a special occasion. She sat at the head of the table, posture straight, eyes sharp. I lowered myself into a chair, my hands clammy. The roast chicken looked perfect, golden skin glistening, but I couldn't taste a thing. My throat was too tight. Angela carved the meat, placed a portion on my plate, and then fixed her gaze on me. Well, she asked. Your answer. The words lodged in my throat. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to say this was absurd. But the image of dragging a suitcase into the night stopped me. I had no money, no friends nearby, and Dad wouldn't be back for weeks. Angela's house was my only safe place. I'll stay, I muttered. Her lips curved into a satisfied smile. Good choice. You've taken your first step toward becoming the right kind of child. I shifted uncomfortably. But this doesn't mean. She raised a hand, silencing me. It means exactly what I said. From now on, you will follow my rules. If I say you wear something, you wear it. If I say you speak or move a certain way, you obey. Resistance will not be tolerated. Do you understand? I swallowed hard. Yes. Angela nodded approvingly and took a delicate bite of chicken, as if nothing unusual had just been decided. But my hands shook as I gripped my fork. I had agreed. I didn't even know what I had agreed to, not fully, but I had said yes. The rest of dinner passed in silence, the ticking clock loud in my ears. Later that night, Angela knocked on my bedroom door. I hesitated before opening it, only to find her holding a box wrapped in soft floral paper. For you, she said. I blinked. What is it? A beginning. She placed the box in my hands and left without waiting for thanks. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at it. The wrapping paper almost shimmered under the lamplight, delicate and perfect, like Angela herself. With trembling fingers, I peeled it away. Inside was a folded dress pastel pink, with tiny embroidered flowers along the hem. My heart stopped. The dress lay in my lap like something out of a dream or a nightmare. Its fabric was soft beneath my fingers, the pale pink glowing faintly in the lamplight. The embroidered flowers seemed almost alive, delicate and precise, just like Angela's rules. I couldn't move. My chest tightened as if the dress itself were breathing against me. A voice echoed from the hallway. Try it on, Angela. She hadn't gone far at all. She had been waiting. My pulse spiked. Now. I called back, my throat dry. Yes. Tonight is the first step. Tomorrow will be too late. I wanted to argue, to slam the box shut and shove it under my bed. But my legs carried me to the mirror almost against my will. I held the dress up against myself, the hem brushing my knees. My reflection looked absurd, like a boy caught in his sister's room playing dress-up. Angela's footsteps approached. I panicked, fumbling with the fabric. By the time she entered, I was clutching it awkwardly to my chest, face burning. She arched an eyebrow. Still resisting? I stammered. I don't think I can. Her expression hardened, but her tone remained smooth as silk. You already agreed to stay. This is part of staying. Or, do you wish to pack your things tonight? The words stabbed deeper than any blade. Slowly, with trembling hands, I slipped the dress over my head. The fabric whispered down my skin, cool and alien. When I looked back at the mirror, I barely recognized myself. Angela stepped behind me, her hands resting lightly on my shoulders. "There," she whispered. "Now you're starting to look like family." A chill ran down my spine. Angela's reflection hovered behind me in the mirror, her eyes sharp yet strangely proud. I stood frozen, the hem of the dress brushing against my knees, my own hands twitching at my sides as if I didn't know what to do with them. The fabric clung lightly, settling as though it belonged there more than I did. She moved with quiet precision, picking up a comb from the dresser. Without asking, she began smoothing my hair back, her fingers deliberate. "Your face that's softer than you realize," she murmured. "You've been hiding behind boyish stubbornness. That ends now." I swallowed hard, my throat dry. "Why are you doing this?" Her eyes met mine in the mirror. For a second, they softened. "Because this house has rules. And because whether you see it yet or not, you belong here as a daughter, not a son." The words rang in my ears, louder than my own heartbeat. Then she pulled open another drawer. My stomach dropped as I saw the small collection laid out neatly: lipsticks, blush, powder, brushes. Not gaudy, not theatrical, subtle, controlled, inevitable. I took a step back. "No. Not that. Please." Her hand rested on my arm, firm but not cruel. "One step at a time. Tonight, the dress. Tomorrow, more. You'll learn. You'll obey. And in time, you'll thank me for giving you a place when no one else would." Tears stung at the corners of my eyes, but I nodded weakly. The fight inside me was crumbling. Angela smiled faintly, a queen satisfied with her subject's surrender. "Good. Now off to bed. Tomorrow, we begin properly." I climbed into bed still wearing the dress, too afraid to take it off. As the fabric settled around me, I realized this was no longer my house, no longer my rules. It was hers, and I had just taken the first step into becoming her daughter. The next morning sunlight spilled into my room, but instead of the comfort I usually felt, I woke with a strange heaviness pressing down on me. The dress still clung to my skin, wrinkled from the night's restless tossing and turning. For a fleeting second, I thought it had all been a dream, that maybe I'd imagined Angela's chilling words, the ultimatum, the rules. But then I looked down, saw the pale fabric against my body, and reality struck like a hammer. A soft knock tapped against my door. Before I could even answer, the door creaked open. Angela stepped inside, dressed immaculately in a tailored blouse and pencil skirt, her hair pinned up with a calculated grace. She looked like she belonged on the cover of a lifestyle magazine, the perfect picture of control. "Good morning," she said calmly, her eyes sweeping over me. "I see you followed my instructions." I sat up quickly, embarrassed. I didn't take it off because you said." Her lips curved slightly. "Good. You remembered." She set a tray on the bedside table: toast, fruit, and a steaming cup of tea. "From today forward, you'll start your mornings differently. No more sloppy eating. No more wolfing down cereal in front of the TV. You'll sit at the table like a young lady. And you'll do it dressed properly." I hesitated, my stomach churning. "Angela, please, I don't think I can." She raised a hand, silencing me instantly. "No. You will. Because this is not about what you think. This is about what you need. You've been lost, unruly, undisciplined since your father left me in charge. But under my care, you'll become someone better. Someone softer." Her words sank into me like poison disguised as honey. I wanted to rebel, to scream that she had no right, but something about the steady way she spoke left me weak. It was as though she knew I didn't have the strength to fight her. "Eat," she ordered. I obeyed, my hands trembling as I nibbled at the toast. She watched every bite, her gaze measuring, assessing, as though this was all part of a grand plan she'd been preparing long before this morning. When I finished, she stood, crossing to my wardrobe. She flung the doors open, and my breath caught in my throat. My clothes, the jeans, the hoodies, the t-shirts, all were gone. In their place hung dresses, blouses, skirts, and neatly folded stockings. Boxes at the bottom contained shoes I didn't recognize, ballet flats, kitten heels, dainty sandals. I leapt to my feet. What did you do? Where are my clothes? Angela turned, unbothered. I donated them. They were unnecessary. From this day on, there are no sons in this house. Only daughters. Her declaration hit me harder than I could have imagined. A lump formed in my throat as I stared helplessly at the wardrobe at the life she had erased overnight. This is insane. I choked. You can't just... She stepped closer, her eyes narrowing ever so slightly. I can. And I did. And if you want a roof over your head, food on your table, and any semblance of belonging, you'll play by my rules. You'll wear what I give you. You'll behave as I say. You'll be the daughter this house requires. I shook my head, my body trembling with rage and fear. But deep down, I knew she had me cornered. I had nowhere else to go. No one else to turn to. Angela reached into the wardrobe, pulling out a light pink blouse and a knee-length skirt. She held them out to me, her eyes gleaming with quiet authority. Change. Now. Breakfast is waiting. My hands twitched, every instinct screaming to refuse. But slowly, with the weight of her gaze pressing down on me, I reached out and took the clothes. That was the moment I realized. Angela wasn't bluffing. She was serious. And this was only the beginning of her rule. I stood frozen with the blouse and skirt clutched in my hands, my pulse hammering so hard I thought Angela could hear it. She watched me with the calm patience of a predator who knew the prey had no escape. The silence stretched, suffocating, until she tilted her head slightly. Well, she said softly, but the edge in her voice was sharper than glass. I'm waiting. I swallowed hard, then shuffled into the bathroom. Closing the door behind me, I leaned against it, my legs trembling. The mirror reflected back a version of me I barely recognized still trapped in the wrinkled dress she had forced me into last night. With shaking fingers, I peeled it off and slipped into the blouse. The fabric was light, silky, almost mocking. The skirt followed, clinging tighter around my waist than anything I'd ever worn before. When I finally looked at myself again, I froze. It wasn't just clothes anymore, it was me, reshaped into someone I didn't want to be. Someone she was creating. A sharp knock rattled the door. Don't keep me waiting, Angela's voice warned. I opened it hesitantly. Her eyes flicked over me, scanning every inch. For a moment, I thought she might criticize, but instead, a small smile curled her lips. Better. But you're standing like a slouching boy. Straighten your back. I did, stiff and awkward. No, not like that, she said, stepping forward. With sudden precision, her hands gripped my shoulders, pulling them back, adjusting my stance. Head up, chin lowered just slightly. There. A young lady doesn't stumble through life like a sack of potatoes. She glides. Her words made my face burn, but she didn't stop. She stepped back, circling me like a teacher correcting a student. Feet together. Take smaller steps. Don't stomp. Lift, place, glide. She demonstrated, walking with elegant precision, then gestured for me to mimic. I tried, fumbling at first, my movements jerky and clumsy. She shook her head. Again. I tried. Failed. Tried again. Her eyes bore into me, with unwavering expectation. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she nodded. Acceptable. We'll practice more later. Then her voice hardened. Now your hands. Stop shoving them into your pockets. Fold them neatly in front of you, or let them rest gracefully at your sides. Every gesture matters. I obeyed, my body stiff with humiliation. But a small part of me realized she was molding me bit by bit, stripping away everything I once knew. Good, Angela murmured, her voice shifting from strict to almost soothing. See how different you look already? All it takes is posture and a little discipline. You're learning. Then, as if the ground hadn't already shifted beneath me enough, she added, From now on, you will address me not just as your stepmother, but as mother. Do you understand? The word caught in my throat. Mother. Her smile widened, cold and satisfied. That's better. Now come. It's time for your first proper breakfast as my daughter. And just like that, with a single word, she had closed the door on the life I once had and opened a new one I hadn't chosen. Angela led me down the hallway, her heels clicking sharply on the wooden floor, each sound like a countdown I couldn't escape. I followed, taking the smaller, careful steps she had drilled into me minutes earlier. Even that felt unnatural, like my own body was betraying me. When we reached the dining room, the table was already set. 2 plates, 2 cups, a vase of flowers in the center. But what caught my eye was the detail-lace placemats, delicate china, everything styled as though for some kind of dainty tea party. "Sit," Angela instructed, gesturing to the chair nearest her. I slid into it quickly, desperate not to upset her. But the moment I sat, she frowned.
"No."
"Sit properly. Back straight, knees together, ankles crossed." I tried to adjust, fumbling, but my body wasn't used to it. My knees kept drifting apart out of habit, and each time they did, her sharp look cut me down. "You're not a careless boy anymore," she said firmly. "You're a young lady in this house, and you will behave like one." The words hit harder than I expected. Not a boy anymore. It was just a sentence, but the finality of it made my stomach twist. She placed a plate in front of me, toast cut into small neat triangles, fruit arranged in a perfect circle. Then she handed me utensils, placing them in my hands with exacting care. "Pick them up delicately," she instructed. "No fists. Hold them lightly, as though they were fragile. Now eat." I obeyed, awkwardly spearing a piece of fruit. My movements were clumsy, and I could feel her eyes on me the entire time. Every slip, every wrong angle of my wrist, earned a soft correction. Slower. Smaller bites. No chewing with your mouth open. Sip, don't gulp. A daughter of mine will never be sloppy at the table. Her tone was relentless, but not angry, more like she was chiseling me into shape, one careful strike at a time. Halfway through the meal, she set her fork down, folded her hands, and fixed me with a steady gaze. "From this morning forward, meals in this house will always be taken this way. Gracefully. Neatly. And you will thank me before and after every meal. Do you understand?" I nodded quickly. "Yes, Mother." The title felt foreign on my tongue, but her expression softened slightly at the sound of it.
"Good," she said.
Then her lips curved into that unsettling smile I was learning to dread. "Because after breakfast, we'll start on your voice. A daughter's tone should never sound rough or clumsy. You'll learn to speak properly.
Sweetly.
Feminine." My fork nearly slipped from my hand. My voice. She wasn't just changing how I looked or sat, she wanted to reach inside and rewire the very way I spoke. The realization sent a chill through me. This wasn't just about appearances. She was remaking me, piece by piece, into her vision of perfection. After breakfast, Angela wasted no time. She gathered the dishes with graceful precision, then turned back to me with that calculating look that made my chest tighten. "Follow me," she said simply. I obeyed, trailing her into the living room. There, she had already set out a small tape recorder, a notebook, and a glass of water. The sight made my heart pound faster. "Sit." I perched nervously on the edge of the sofa. Angela stood over me, arms folded. "You've learned to sit properly. You've learned to eat properly. Now we refine how you speak. A daughter should sound pleasant, soft, and controlled. No rough edges. No barking. Do you understand?" "Yes, Mother," I said quickly. Her eyebrow arched. "Too flat. Too plain. Try again, but softer, warmer. As if you cared how the words sounded." I swallowed and forced myself to repeat, "Yes, Mother," in a gentler tone. Angela tilted her head. "Better. But we'll need practice." She clicked the tape recorder on. "Repeat after me. Good morning, Mother. How are you today?" The words stuck in my throat. It felt absurd, humiliating even, but I had no choice. I repeated them, clumsy at first, my natural tone breaking through. "Again," she ordered. I repeated. "Again." I tried again, higher, softer. Her smile widened. "Now you're starting to sound like the daughter I expect." The repetition went on until my throat felt dry and my mind numb. Every failed attempt was met with calm correction, every tiny improvement with faint praise. She was molding me like clay, shaping each sound until my own voice began to feel unfamiliar to me. Finally, she handed me the notebook. Inside were carefully written phrases, polite greetings, compliments, deferential replies. "You'll memorize these," she said firmly. "Every word. A daughter's voice is her most powerful tool. Yours will be flawless." I stared at the neat handwriting, the endless phrases I would be expected to recite. It wasn't just training, it was programming. Then Angela leaned closer, her voice dropping into a tone that made my stomach knot. "And one more rule, dear. From this day forward, you will never raise your voice in this house. No shouting, no harshness. Daughters are soft, gentle,
Sweet.
If you forget, you'll regret it." Her eyes held mine until I nodded, my pulse hammering in my ears. And just when I thought the lesson was over, she added, almost casually, "Tonight, we'll begin posture training. A daughter must glide, not stomp. So don't think the day's duties are finished yet." The weight of it all settled over me like a heavy cloak. She wasn't just guiding me, she was consuming me, piece by piece, rule by rule. And I realized with a sinking heart there would be no end to her rules. Evening arrived faster than I expected. The day had dragged under Angela's relentless drills, my voice, my manners, the endless notebook recitations, but now she stood before me, elegant as ever, holding a long, thin book balanced flat in her hand. "Stand," she ordered. I rose quickly, my legs stiff from sitting too long. "Posture training begins now. A daughter doesn't slouch, doesn't stomp, doesn't shuffle. She moves with grace, like a ribbon carried on the air." Before I could react, she placed the book squarely on my head. "Straighten your back. Shoulders down. Chin slightly up. Yes, better. Now walk." I tried. The first step sent the book tumbling to the floor. Angela's sigh was sharp, controlled. Again. I retrieved the book and tried again, this time forcing my spine rigid, my step smaller. The book slipped once more, hitting the carpet with a dull thud. Angela's eyes narrowed. "Do you know what happens to a daughter who doesn't obey the rules?" My throat tightened. "No, Mother." Without a word, she lifted a wooden ruler from the table beside her. She tapped it lightly against her palm, the sound snapping like a warning. "Discipline," she said coolly. "Not to punish you, but to remind you. Daughters must learn quickly." She made me place the book back on my head, then instructed me to walk again. I barely managed 2 steps before it slipped sideways. Crack. The ruler struck lightly across my palm. Not hard enough to bruise, but sharp enough to sting. Again. I bit back a gasp, reset the book, and tried again. Step, step, wobble, drop. Crack. Another strike. Each failure meant another sting. And yet, beneath the humiliation and the ache in my palms, a strange determination began to take root. I needed to prove I could do it. Finally, after what felt like hours, I managed to walk across the length of the living room without the book falling. My back ached, my palms burned, and sweat prickled at my neck, but the book stayed in place. Angela clapped once, a single crisp sound. "Better. Much better. You see? A little discipline, a little persistence, and a daughter learns." I lowered my eyes, both relieved and exhausted. But her words lingered in my head like a spell. A daughter learns. And I couldn't shake the chilling thought that, step by step, she was making sure I did. The next morning, Angela woke me earlier than usual. Sunlight barely filtered through the curtains when she pulled the covers from me and announced, "Today begins your appearance training. A daughter must not only carry herself with grace, but also look the part every single day." I sat up groggily, rubbing my eyes. "Appearance training?" Angela's smile was soft but commanding.
Yes.
"Cleanliness, grooming, personal care. These are non-negotiable. A daughter does not stumble out of bed looking wild. She prepares herself to be seen." She guided me into the bathroom, where the counter had already been transformed. My old razor, toothbrush, and cologne were gone, replaced by pastel bottles of lotions, hairbrushes with soft bristles, jars of creams, and rows of cosmetics I didn't recognize. "First, skincare," she instructed. She pressed a cold cream into my hand. Massage it gently across your face. Circle slowly. Yes, like that. A daughter takes pride in glowing skin. The cream smelled faintly of roses. I followed her directions clumsily, glancing at her for approval.
Better, she said.
Now rinse. Step by step, she guided me through a routine cleanser, toner, moisturizer. Each step seemed unnecessary, yet under her watchful eyes I obeyed. When I looked in the mirror after, my face shone strangely fresh, softer somehow. Much prettier, Angela murmured, tucking a stray strand of my hair behind my ear. Her touch lingered just long enough to make my stomach tighten. Now, your hair. She pulled out a brush and began working carefully through the tangles. The rhythmic strokes made me feel small, almost childlike, as though I were being prepared for school. She pinned back the sides, then sprayed something that smelled faintly of vanilla. You see? Already, you resemble a proper young lady. I wanted to argue, to remind her that I wasn't supposed to resemble a young lady at all, but the words stuck in my throat. Angela then led me back into the bedroom, where a fresh set of folded clothes waited on the chair. My pulse quickened. It wasn't a dress.
Not yet.
But the outfit was undeniably feminine, soft leggings in a pale lavender shade and a long tunic-style top with lace trim around the neckline. Put these on, Angela said simply. I hesitated.
But...
Her gaze sharpened. Do you recall what happens when a daughter resists? My palms still tingled from the ruler's sting the night before. Slowly, I nodded and picked up the clothes. When I slid them on, the fabric clung differently than anything I'd worn before, snug, delicate, whispering against my skin. I caught my reflection in the mirror and barely recognized myself. Angela's smile widened. Yes, now the transformation begins to show. You're becoming what this house requires, a daughter. Her words echoed through me, terrifying and strangely binding. Each layer she placed on me felt like another chain, but also, against my will, another step I couldn't undo. Angela circled me slowly, her eyes tracing every line of the lavender leggings and lace-trimmed tunic. She tilted her head, as though studying an art piece still unfinished. Better, she murmured, but not complete. My chest tightened. Not complete. She gave a soft laugh. A daughter must never leave her room without her face prepared. Today you'll learn makeup, not the heavy, dramatic kind, but soft, natural beauty. Enough to tell the world you are cared for. She guided me back to the vanity. Rows of small compacts and tubes waited like instruments of a strange ritual. She opened one, a pale powder, and tapped the brush gently. Tilt your chin up. Relax. I did as told, my heart pounding as she swept the powder across my cheeks, my nose, my forehead. The sensation was delicate, feather-like. She then dabbed something cool and glossy onto my lips. Press them together, she instructed. I obeyed. My reflection in the mirror startled me, the slight sheen on my lips, the softened tones of my face, it all blurred the boundary between myself and the image of someone else. Someone feminine. Angela's smile was approving, but her eyes carried that sharp, undeniable authority. You see? A daughter is never careless with her presentation. When you look this way, people treat you differently, with gentleness, with expectation. Her words seemed heavy, like invisible hands pressing me deeper into this new role. Then she surprised me. We're going out today. I spun toward her.
What? Out?
Like this. Yes, she said simply, folding her arms. You must be seen. A daughter does not hide. If you remain in secrecy, you'll never learn confidence. Panic rose in me. But what if someone notices? What if? Angela silenced me with a finger against my lips. Her touch was firm, commanding. No one will question. With me beside you, they'll accept what they see. And what they see, her voice dropped to a whisper, is my daughter. I swallowed hard, my throat dry. She handed me a light cardigan, pale cream in color, and slid a matching hair clip into my brushed hair. Every addition felt like another door closing behind me. You'll walk with poise. You'll speak softly. And you'll remember hesitation is the mark of someone pretending. You are not pretending. You are my daughter. Say it. My lips trembled. I am your daughter. Angela's eyes lit with triumph.
Yes.
Now, let's prove it. The moment Angela opened the front door, a rush of warm afternoon air swept across my face, carrying the sound of distant chatter and the scent of freshly cut grass. My stomach twisted with nerves. Stepping outside dressed this way felt like standing on the edge of a cliff. Angela touched my back lightly but firmly, nudging me forward.
Breathe.
Shoulders back. A daughter never shrinks. I clutched the strap of the small purse she had given me, my fingers tight around it as though it were a lifeline. The leggings hugged my legs, the cardigan brushed against my arms, and every step down the walkway felt exaggerated, loud, impossible to hide. Where are we going? I whispered. The market, she said casually, locking the door behind us. Just a short walk. You'll be fine. The word market echoed in my head like a warning bell.
People. Crowds.
Strangers' eyes. I wanted to turn back, to beg her not to push me into this, but Angela's steady presence beside me left no space for retreat. As we walked down the sidewalk, I caught sight of my reflection in a passing window. The glossy lips, the feminine outline, the careful brush of hair clipped neatly at the side, I looked like a nervous young woman, not myself. My heart raced faster. Keep your pace even, Angela murmured, not looking at me, but aware of every hesitation. Don't dart your eyes. Confidence is your shield. At the corner, a woman passing with a grocery bag gave us a polite smile. She glanced at me briefly, then turned away without a second thought. My breath caught. She hadn't stared, hadn't questioned. Angela noticed. Her lips curved upward. You see? You worry too much. The world accepts what it is shown. I nodded faintly, though my palms were sweating. Each stranger we passed felt like a test. Each look that didn't linger was both a relief and a strange confirmation that Angela might be right. No one saw through me. We reached the small marketplace, bustling with shoppers moving between stalls of fruit, flowers, and baked bread. Angela linked her arm with mine, guiding me deliberately through the crowd. Smile softly, she whispered. Daughters are polite, approachable. Remember you belong. I forced a small smile as a vendor greeted us. Angela chatted effortlessly, asking about prices, laughing lightly, while I stood there, nodding, clutching the purse like it was glued to me. The vendor's eyes flicked to me only briefly, then returned to Angela. Nothing unusual. And yet inside me, the storm raged louder. The normalcy of it all was more terrifying than if someone had called me out. Because normal meant this disguise worked. Normal meant this identity was becoming real. As we left the stall, Angela leaned close and whispered in my ear, her tone both soothing and commanding. Good girl. The words struck me like a chord, vibrating deep in my chest. I should have resisted them. Instead, they lingered, warm and disorienting. Angela steered me toward another row of stalls, her arm no longer linked with mine. I instantly felt exposed, like a child separated from their parent in a crowd. She slowed her steps, letting me drift slightly ahead. It's your turn now, she said softly, her voice low but firm. I froze. And my turn. You'll speak to the vendor. Order something small. Nothing complicated. I'll be right here. My throat tightened. The idea of speaking, of having my voice tested, of hearing how it sounded in this disguise made my knees weak. But Angela's expression carried no room for refusal. At the nearest stall, a man in his 50s arranged apples in neat rows. I swallowed, clutching the purse tighter, and stepped forward. Could I have 3 apples, please? My voice trembled, higher than usual but still shaky. The vendor looked up, nodded, and started placing apples into a paper bag. His face showed no suspicion, only the detached courtesy of someone who had done this 1,000 times. I handed him the coins Angela had slipped into my purse earlier, careful not to drop them with my trembling fingers. Here you go, miss, he said warmly, passing me the bag. Mississippi. The word hit me like a jolt of lightning. My ears rang, my chest tightened, and for a moment I forgot to breathe. I managed a faint smile, murmured a thank you, and turned back to Angela. She was watching me with quiet pride, her lips curved into the slightest smile. See? Effortless. He didn't hesitate once. I stared down at the bag of apples in my hands, my reflection caught faintly in the glossy skin of the fruit. That single word replayed in my mind over and over. Mississippi. Not sir. Not even a questioning glance. As we walked on, Angela leaned close, her breath brushing my ear. The world responds to what you project. And right now, you project a daughter. The mixture of fear, confusion, and a strange, guilty thrill swirled inside me. The market, the voices, the stares that weren't really stares at all blurred into background noise. What stood out was Angela's steady presence beside me, guiding me into a reality I hadn't chosen, yet couldn't seem to escape. Angela guided me to a quieter stretch of the market, where the crowd thinned and the air felt less suffocating. My nerves were still rattled from the vendor calling me miss, but before I could catch my breath, Angela stopped suddenly. "Hold this," she said, handing me a small basket she had been carrying. Then, with a calmness that froze me inside, she added, "I'll be right back." My head snapped toward her. "Wait, you're leaving me here?" "Only for a few minutes," she said firmly, adjusting her scarf like it was the most natural thing in the world. "You need to practice. You need to see you can survive a moment without me holding your hand." My heart pounded. But what if someone? No what-ifs. She cut me off with that steady gaze of hers. "Daughters know how to handle themselves. You'll manage." And with that, she turned and walked toward another stall across the lane, deliberately putting distance between us. I stood frozen, basket clutched to my chest, trying to shrink into myself. Every person passing by seemed to glance at me, though I knew most weren't. My mind raced. Was my wig straight? Could they see my Adam's apple? Was my walk wrong? A group of teenage girls brushed past, laughing loudly, one of them tossing her hair so close to my face that I smelled her perfume. My stomach twisted. I was certain they'd notice me, point, laugh, expose me. But they didn't. They kept walking, never giving me more than a casual glance. I forced a shaky breath, my hands gripping the basket so tightly my knuckles ached. Then a woman in her 40s approached me. My heart nearly stopped. "Excuse me," she said kindly. "Do you know where the bakery stall is? I'm new here." Her eyes met mine expectantly. For a split second, panic threatened to choke me. But then Angela's voice echoed in my head. "You project a daughter." Swallowing hard, I pointed toward the far end of the lane where I remembered seeing the bread stand earlier. "Down there, near the corner, next to the spice vendor," I said, my voice softer, lighter, careful. The woman smiled warmly. "Thank you, sweetheart." Sweetheart. Another word that hit like a lightning bolt. I nodded quickly, managing a faint smile, and she walked away without suspicion. My chest heaved, relief flooding me. When Angela returned minutes later, she studied my face, noting the flush in my cheeks. "Well," she asked softly. I whispered. She called me sweetheart. Angela's lips curved into a slow, satisfied smile. "And you loved it, didn't you?" My breath caught. I couldn't answer. Angela didn't waste time. She looked at me with that knowing expression of hers, the one that always made my stomach flip. "You handled yourself well," she said, adjusting the strap of her purse. "But a single polite conversation isn't enough. If you're going to live as a daughter in my house, you need to function as one in the world." I swallowed, dread rising. "What do you mean?" Her eyes glimmered with quiet challenge. "I want you to buy something. On your own." My blood ran cold. "Alone?" "No, Angela, I can't." "You can," she interrupted firmly. "You just don't want to. There's a difference." I stood frozen, clutching the basket to my chest like a shield. She reached out, pried it from my arms, and set it aside. Then she slipped a folded bill into my trembling hand. "There," she said. "Go to that stall." She nodded toward a bright fabric vendor across the way, his table stacked with colorful scarves and ribbons, "and pick out something you'd wear. Pay for it. Speak clearly. Smile. And then bring it back to me." My legs felt like lead. The thought of walking up there, being close enough for the man to study me, to hear my voice, made me want to vanish. Angela leaned closer, her voice dropping low. "You'll do this, or I'll walk away right now. And if you can't handle a simple scarf purchase, maybe you're not ready to be my daughter after all. That word daughter hit like a knife. I didn't want to fail her. Not after everything. So I forced my feet forward, each step heavy, my pulse hammering so loudly I thought the whole market could hear it. The vendor looked up as I approached, his weathered face breaking into a friendly smile. Yes, miss? Looking for something special today. That word again. Mississippi. My knees nearly gave out. My voice came out shaky at first, but I steadied it. I'd like a scarf, please. I gestured at a soft pink one edged with delicate lace. He lifted it, held it up to me. Beautiful choice. It suits you perfectly. Heat rushed to my face. I dug into my palm, pulling out the money Angela had given me. The man accepted it with ease, handed me the scarf, and wished me a pleasant day. That was it. No suspicion. No laughter. Just normal. I turned back toward Angela, scarf clutched like a lifeline. She stood waiting, arms crossed, eyes glittering with pride. When I reached her, she brushed her hand over the fabric, then met my gaze. You see? The world already sees you as my daughter. All that's left is for you to believe it. Her words sank deep, and for the first time, I wasn't sure if I was pretending anymore. Angela slipped her arm around mine as we continued through the market, the scarf now draped carefully around my shoulders. Every brush of fabric against my skin reminded me of what I had just done, and the fact that no one questioned it. That little piece of cloth felt heavier than gold. You did well, Angela said softly, almost like she was rewarding me. But this isn't the end. You need to stop hiding behind me and start living as the girl you are becoming. Her words pulled me in two directions at once. Part of me wanted to scream that I wasn't a girl, that this was just her strange rule. Yet another part of me, one that grew louder each day, wondered if she might be right. As if sensing my hesitation, Angela guided me toward a stall filled with jewelry. Necklaces glittered in the sun, earrings sparkled, and bangles clinked together with every breeze. The woman behind the table, a cheerful middle-aged vendor, looked up with a welcoming smile. Such a sweet daughter you have, she said to Angela immediately, her eyes lingering on me. She looks so shy, though. Let me help her pick something pretty. My chest tightened. Daughter. Again. The word echoed louder each time. Angela gave a little laugh, playing along effortlessly. Yes, she's very shy. But I'm trying to help her grow more confident. The vendor leaned closer to me, her warm eyes searching mine. Don't be shy, dear. Every young lady deserves something special. What do you like? Silver? Gold? Something delicate? I froze, heart pounding. Angela's hand squeezed mine, discreetly, a silent push. I like something simple, I whispered, eyes darting over the rows of jewelry until I landed on a thin silver bracelet, engraved with tiny flowers. My finger lifted shakily. That one. The vendor's smile widened. Perfect choice. It suits your gentle nature. As she wrapped it carefully in a little pouch, Angela paid for it, then slipped it onto my wrist before I could resist. The cool metal hugged my skin like a secret binding. There, Angela said firmly. Now you have your first piece of jewelry. A daughter should always have something that belongs to her. I stared at the bracelet, at the way it gleamed under the sunlight. The vendor waved us off, and I caught her final words floating after me. Such a lovely young girl. My breath caught in my throat. The world wasn't fighting Angela's vision, it was accepting it. And maybe, against my will, so was I. When we returned home from the market, the house felt different. Maybe it was me, or maybe it was the weight of the bracelet now clinking softly with each movement of my hand. It wasn't just jewelry, it was evidence. Proof that I had walked through town as Angela's daughter, and no one questioned it. Angela placed the shopping bags on the table, and then turned to me, with that decisive look I had learned to fear. All right, she said. Today was progress. But now it's time to establish order in this house. Her tone was calm, but commanding, the kind that made me stand straighter. What do you mean? I asked carefully. She walked to the living room shelf and pulled out a notebook I had never seen before. Its cover was pink, decorated with roses. She placed it on the table and tapped it with one manicured finger. "This," she announced, "is the house rule book. And as of today, there is one rule above all others. Only daughters in this house. That means no sulking, no refusing, no halfway measures. You live here. You live as my daughter. Do you understand?" The room seemed to shrink around me. My throat tightened, and my first instinct was to argue, to shout that I wasn't her daughter, that I was just me. But when my eyes fell on the bracelet, on the scarf still draped around my shoulders, I froze. Angela stepped closer, her voice softening but never losing its edge. "This doesn't have to be punishment, sweetheart. It can be transformation. You can fight it and make yourself miserable, or you can accept it and discover who you truly are. Which will it be?" Her words echoed through me, stirring something I didn't want to admit. I don't know," I whispered. Angela smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair away from my face. "That's all right. You don't need to know yet. You only need to follow the rules. The rest will come naturally." She opened the notebook and handed me a pen. "Write it down. First rule: only daughters in this house." My hand trembled as I bent over the page, the pen hovering above the lines. Slowly, almost unwillingly, I wrote the words. When I finished, Angela kissed the top of my head. "Good girl," she whispered. And just like that, the rule was no longer just hers, it was mine too. Angela didn't waste any time after the first rule was written. She sat across from me at the table, notebook open, pen in her hand like a judge about to pass sentence. "Now," she said with a soft smile, "if we're going to live by the only daughter's rule, we need clarity. Every daughter has expectation standards. And you, my dear, will follow them." My chest tightened. "Expectations?" I asked nervously. Angela nodded, flipping to a fresh page.
"Yes."
Rule 2. Daughters dress properly. No more baggy shirts, no more dull pants. Every day you'll wear something feminine, even if it's just a skirt and blouse. You'll look the part. I swallowed hard, my eyes darting to the shopping bags filled with clothes. She was serious. Rule 3, she continued, writing slowly so I could see every stroke. Daughters sit with grace. No sprawling, no slouching. Cross legs, straight back. Posture matters. I shifted uncomfortably in my chair, realizing my knees were apart, my elbows leaning on the table. Without a word, she raised an eyebrow, and I immediately straightened up, crossing my legs under the table. She smiled knowingly. "Better," she said.
"See?
It's not so difficult." I didn't reply. My heart thudded in my chest. Rule 4. Angela went on, her voice smooth and steady. Daughters speak softly and politely. No grumbling, no muttering. If you disagree, you say it kindly. If you want something, you ask sweetly. Tone is everything. I bit my lip. That one was going to be nearly impossible. Angela closed the notebook for a moment, leaning forward to place her hand over mine. Her fingers were warm, firm, inescapable. "These rules aren't here to punish you. They're here to shape you. And once you follow them, you'll see the change not just on the outside, but inside too." Her words wrapped around me like silk. I wanted to fight, to shout that she was wrong. But the bracelet on my wrist clinked again, the scarf brushed against my neck, and I realized the transformation had already begun. Angela sat back, satisfied. "From today onward, you'll practice. You'll stumble, of course, but I'll correct you. That's what mothers do. And by the time I'm finished, you'll be the daughter this house requires." I stared at her, torn between fear and something dangerously close to surrender. That evening, the house felt smaller, more scrutinizing. Every creak of the floorboards sounded louder, every shadow seemed to stretch toward me. Angela had already laid out a simple dinner, but tonight, nothing would be simple for me. "Come sit," she said, her voice sweet but commanding, patting the chair opposite her. I hesitated, then obeyed, sliding carefully into the seat with my legs crossed, posture rigid. Angela's eyes scanned me approvingly. "Much better," she said. "Now, when you speak, remember your tone. Polite, gentle, soft. Can you do that?" I swallowed hard. I'll try, I whispered, my voice faltering. She smiled.
Good.
Try is the first step. Dinner was a test in disguise. Every bite, every sip, every small gesture was observed. If I slouched, she noticed. If I spoke too sharply, she corrected me. I realized that even the simple act of eating had become a performance, a lesson in grace and composure. Pass me the bread, dear, she said suddenly. I froze. Dear? My heart pounded, but I responded carefully, of course, Angela. I handed her the basket, careful not to spill a single crumb. She took it with a satisfied nod, and for a brief moment, I allowed myself a small, shaky smile. But the lesson wasn't over. Halfway through the meal, she leaned closer. Tell me, sweetheart, she asked softly, how does it feel to follow the rules? I hesitated, unsure if I could voice the truth. It's strange, I admitted, but not all bad. Angela's smile widened, her eyes sparkling. That's all I want to hear. The rest will come naturally, mark my words. You'll grow into this role, and soon, you won't remember how you resisted it. My stomach twisted. The rules weren't just words, they were shaping me, subtly, relentlessly, like clay being molded by skilled hands. And Angela was the sculptor. By the time dinner ended, I felt drained, overwhelmed, yet oddly lighter. There was something intoxicating about her control, about how effortlessly she guided me toward this strange new identity. As we cleared the table together, she whispered, almost conspiratorially, tomorrow, we begin the true test in afternoon in public, alone, as my daughter. My breath caught. Alone.
Public.
The thought was terrifying, yet the tiny flicker of excitement inside me betrayed how deeply the transformation was taking hold.